Hey guys, what's up? This is Ron K. Armstrong, filmmaker extraordinaire. And in this video, my pal Lester and I are going to review Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. So we got back from seeing the movie, and the theater was just completely empty. I think it was just me and Lester and about three or four other people. And I have never in my life been to a Star Wars film that was completely empty in the theaters. So this is a first. All right, for my review, let me take a dramatic pause here. First off, I don't know how to review this film. And the reason being is because they throw so much at you. You're jumping around from planet to planet, from plot point to plot point, and you never have time to just get into the scene, to think about what you just saw. But in a nutshell, this film is a piece of garbage. I mean, on a royal scale. And I don't blame necessarily too much Ryan Johnson. Actually, I do blame Ryan Johnson. I mean, I don't blame too much JJ. Actually, I do blame JJ. Most of all, I blame Kathleen Kennedy. They had no plan going into this for this trilogy. Kathleen Kennedy just mismanaged this property from beginning to end. This film, The Rise of Skywalker, is just, it reminded me of a video game where characters would find things that would lead them to another thing, that would lead them to another thing, and lead them to another thing. And in script writing, we call this a MacGuffin. So they find one MacGuffin to another MacGuffin. And so the whole thing about it is that the Emperor is back, Palpatine. And that was the first problem I had with this film. I could not get past that because they gave me no logical explanation as to how Palpatine is back. It is an impossibility. In Return of the Jedi, the Death Star exploded. There was nothing left. All right. Another problem is Rey is overpowered. She's literally, and we're getting into spoilers here, so if you don't want to hear about the spoilers or what, just turn off. Stop playing this right now. Rey literally is floating in the air. That's how powerful she is. She has force lightning. She can pull down ships from the sky. That's how powerful she is without any training. Now, here's what they did in the film. Instead of respecting Carrie Fisher's memory and re-editing The Last Jedi to have her die, when Kylo shoots her, they could have had her sucked out into space and died then. They bring her back into The Rise of Skywalker so that we can have this really crappy footage of her training Rey, which you can see is a double because they show these shots behind her back, and she's saying these stale lines that could be applied to anything. They just took it from other scenes from Return of what is it, from The Last Jedi, or even The Force Awakens. I heard that they didn't want to use, like JJ didn't want to use the clips of her from I'm getting this straight. JJ didn't want to use the clips of her from The Last Jedi, so he used the clips from The Force Awakens. Okay, there we go. But you see, the whole thing was they even had a flashback moment where they showed you young Luke training Leia. So she's Master Leia, and in the clip of him training her, she beats him because they gotta have that because they don't want Luke to train Rey, and they don't want Luke to win against Princess Leia, who's now General Leia. The whole thing is about politics, about the optics of how this look. It has to be that Rey is good without a man's help. But anyway, let's go on. So essentially what you have is you have this planet hopping, and they're going from one scene to the next scene to the next scene. Is all disjointed. It's so much thrown at you. You're just bombarded and you just don't have time to settle in. They do this thing with the Millennium Falcon called light speed skipping, which probably would have been cool, but you don't get time to really look at it. I mean, what's going on is that you have Finn, and then you have Poe, and Poe is piloting the Millennium Falcon, and what they do is they jump light speed from one galaxy, I guess, to another while the TIE fighters are following them. And you get the idea this could be a cool thing, but you don't see it long enough to really process it. Let's go on. So you have Lando Calrissian, who small role, doesn't do much. Everything in this film just feels rehashed, like you've seen it all before. All right, it's the biggest just piece of junk. As I'm watching this film, I'm literally looking at my watch, wondering when is it going to be over. There's not a moment that I was invested in this film. There are no stakes. I don't like the characters. Rey is extremely overpowered. And here's the thing, right? The Force has rules that were set up in the previous movies. In this film, they break all of those rules. You can pass physical objects to somebody on another planet in another galaxy through the Force. So I could pass a lightsaber to you halfway across the galaxy. No kidding you. I can also be Jesus. I can heal you with the Force. And these are powers they have not been established. We've never seen these before, but Rey just demonstrates these. She pulls these out of her ass, and you're wondering, well, where did that come from? Where did that come from? And she's got Force lightning. Now, if you remember the original Star Wars that George Lucas did, including the prequels, Force lightning was something that only either a Jedi or a Sith Lord would have at a high degree or high level. You, as a Padawan, or which is what really Rey is, you wouldn't have the ability to do Force lightning because you weren't trained that way. Oh, but Leia, she trained her well. Um, and then you have the battle between Rey. Well, put it this way: this film is really about the chemistry dynamics between Rey and Kylo Ren. Oh, by the way, we see the Knights of Ren, which are really cool, but they don't do anything. Kylo or Ben Solo ends up fighting them, and he defeats them because Rey passes a lightsaber to him through the Force, and he grabs a lightsaber and he basically just kills all of his knights because he's turning to the good side. Now, Luke could not come up against the Emperor because Palpatine, because he's powerful, but Rey can. So she faces off with the Emperor, who says, "Kill me, my spirit will inhabit your body, and then you will become Empress." Oh, by the way, he has all of these Star Destroyers, over 100 of them that he pulled out his ass, and you're wondering, well, where did these come from? When were you building this fleet? Where did you get the money? Where did you get the manpower? How did you keep this from the First Order? How did they not know? Because you do have spies, you have people that have intel. Oh God, okay. So, and that's another thing. There's so many holes in this movie. I mean, the story it's like Swiss cheese, man. But I guess that's why it has such incredible visual effects, because JJ wants to distract you with that. One of the worst things about this film is how they dealt with Finn. Finn had a really interesting backstory about a stormtrooper who had a change of heart. And he meets a character in this film who's also a black woman, who's also English, who also is a deserter. And they kind of like trade stories. But the whole idea that was set up from the very beginning, and this is why Disney and J.J. Abrams are tone deaf, they're insensitive, they don't know how to write real characters, especially characters with African American people, which you would write like a regular character. Rey and Finn initially had something going on. Well, where did that go? They never complete that. In The Force Awakens, Finn, it seemed, when he picked up the lightsaber, was going to be a Jedi or a training. Now, in this film, you learn that he's Force sensitive. But you see, what happens in The Rise of Skywalker is that they give you these things, but it's never completed or never tied up. So they'll say, okay, Finn's Force sensitive. Okay, okay, what's going to happen? Is he going to get trained? Who's going to train him? Is Rey going to train him? And then you have it where, as you remember in The Last Jedi, Rose Tico, who now is relegated to a minor character, had something going with Finn. That never was followed up on. And of course, Disney is afraid to do any interracial relationships, so I don't think he's going to have a relationship with Rey. Because in this movie, Kylo Ren dies because he gives his force and heals her after she battles the Emperor, and then she dies, and Kylo heals her, and she wakes up, and she goes to Tatooine. She buries her lightsaber with Princess Leia's lightsaber, and she builds her own lightsaber. And then she says she meets an old woman that says, "Who are you?" And she says, "I am Rey Skywalker." So she takes on the name of Skywalker. But there's so many not only just plot holes, but untied threads. It's just like they're throwing all this stuff at you to try and explain the mess of The Last Jedi, but never finish anything. It's an exhausting ride because you're just thrown from scene to scene, action to action. You don't get time to process anything. The characters are so shallow. The fight scenes, the lightsaber scenes are not interesting, not engaging because you know that, hey, no one's going to die. And you really get tired of this back and forth between Rey and Ben Solo. You're like, where is this going? Is this some really like Twilight thing, teen love thing? What is this? So, it's like, is she in love with the bad boy? Is he going to turn good? What's going to happen? He does turn good and he dies. There's an interesting scene with him and his father, Han Solo, who comes back, and they have a really cool moment where he sees Han Solo as a memory, not as a Force ghost, but a memory. Oh, by the way, yeah, that's another thing. Um, Luke comes back and he's able to hold physical things with his hands. So she takes his lightsaber and she throws it, and he grabs it. So now Force ghosts can grab physical objects. And you see how they kind of like what they do is they've taken what we know the Force to be, broken the rules, and whenever Rey needs to get out of a situation that she finds herself in, she uses a new Force power to do it. So essentially, the Force is whatever JJ wants to write in. There are no limitations. There's no rules to it. And that's not how it should work. You've got to have parameters. You have to have limitations. That's what made Return of the Jedi, The Empire Strikes Back, and A New Hope great. Because there were those limitations. You couldn't just master the Force. You needed training. You had to be Force sensitive. So going back to how they treated Finn is just ridiculous. He is just a throwaway character. There's no depth to him. And really, there could have been a lot done with his character because it's a very interesting story of a stormtrooper who had a change of heart, who left the First Order. But they're not, see, Disney's trying to put on this pretense of being about diversity when they really are not. Because if they were really about diversity, you would have gotten more into Finn's storyline and more about him being Force sensitive. And the idea that he meets this other woman who's English and black, and they both have this kind of rapport is so like contrived, and it's just like ridiculous. We don't need that. And another thing about Finn is he keeps running around in this movie yelling, "Ray, Ray, Ray." Why they write him as a thirsty male who just pathetic, you know. There's one scene where Ray is in a lightsaber duel and he runs and he's trying to catch up with her. He's yelling Ray, and she turns around and does a force push and pushes him away. And it just really emasculates him and makes him look, ridiculous. But that's how JJ is writing. Anyway, to sum it all up, let me just let you know what overall, this is not worth your money. It really isn't. In fact, I hated it when I was watching it. The next morning when I got up and thought about it, I hated it even more. It's the explanations to make up for The Last Jedi, because JJ is trying to repair the damage that Rian Johnson did with The Last Jedi. but the explanations don't make sense, and it doesn't work because he has too much explaining to do, so there's too much exposition, and it's boring. There's nothing new you're going to see in this film. It's all just rehash material from the Emperor with Force lightning to to, to the story plots. It's all the same thing, nothing new. You're going to get bored. So, I mean, see it if you want, if you're interested, but otherwise, this is a piece of garbage. It's just insulting to Star Wars fans that that Disney and Lucasfilm, under the head of Kathleen Kennedy, destroyed this brand. I don't understand how Kathleen Kennedy can look at these films and think they're okay. You would have to not know anything about Star Wars to look at these films and think, yeah, let's release this. Like The Last Jedi should never have been released. If they brought that film to me and I was viewing it, I would say, start from scratch, burn this. So how she thought it was okay to release that film is beyond me. And this film, if they came and showed it to me, I would fire J.J. Abrams and say, listen, this is, like I said, I can't blame J.J. too much, but you do have to blame him in some sense. Because, yeah, Rian Johnson messed up, but J.J. is coming with the Emperor. Like, that's the one thing I can't get over. I just don't buy that he's coming back. And then this fleet of Death Stars or Star Destroyers that have the power of a Death Star. Each one has the power of a Death Star. This movie is just ridiculously stupid. So anyway, that's my review. Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't get to hear Lester, but we're out of time. But this is filmmaker Ron K. Armstrong. Until my next video, keep shooting film.